All right, so we're gonna clear some miscellaneous items before we jump into the main topic, which I'll keep a surprise for now. But if you were paying attention today, some news broke wind about Phil Mickelson. Apparently, Lifetime he has wagered over $1 billion gambling. And if you recall from my last spaces, I was sort of rotating a theory that Michael Jordan's greatness actually stemmed from the degenerate dark nature inside him. In other words, he'd never had a love for the game of basketball. Basketball was the feed, it was the tunnel into feeding the dark degenerate nature. And I believe that a lot of greats essentially have to become great at something in order to feed the beast. And it's an absolute must. Hold on one second. It's an absolute must for anybody who has any sort of dark-hearted nature to essentially sublimate that energy. Um, I believe this is ubiquitous, by the way. There are plenty of great athletes, obviously, that are more on the paladin spectrum, more of that sort of white light, celestial light. But 100%, every male who's excelling at something is 100% putting their demons to work. In other words, the demons are doing the heavy lifting for them rather than them trying to do an exorcism on the demons. If you do the exorcism on your demons, it's game over. It's 100% game over. Your demons have to work for you. And I believe this is a common denominator. And I think as we go through this culture and as we sift through it, you're going to find more and more stories. And my point is that for Phil Mickelson, I believe golf is the front. Do you understand where I'm going with this? I believe golf is simply the front to generate tons of money, power, an upward whirlwind. And then effectively what's happening is they're using that capital, status, and power to essentially awaken the beast within and fund a lot of what modern society would call degenerate activity, which I don't even want to call it degenerate, but it's a good descriptor for the case in point. So we see this happening over and over and again, okay? And then I was looking at that and I was looking at my own life path. And I wanted to, this is somewhat going to be a little bit of a biopic. I wanted to sort of dive into just my life choices, my life path, kind of give you a better understanding of how I have crafted the mindset that I have through some of the crucibles that I've been through. Some of you who are very familiar with my work will know that the last time I ever had a job was when I was 17. And the day that I got fired was the greatest day of my life. And I sabotaged it on purpose because I think I called my boss a faggot or something. And I knew that was the end. And when I walked off the job, I knew I had no more excuses. I knew it was just me and my wherewithal and whatever equipage that I had. And I now had to face the world head on. There was no more excuses to drag my lumpen soul into that fucking job that I absolutely despised. By the way, of everything that I've ever experimented with in my life, having a job was the most existentially torturous. Very hard to put into words the absolute nihilistic feeling of having to walk into a job every day. I was borderline suicidal at the time. It was an absolute, I mean, when I would wake up in the morning and have to go to that job and I would open my front door, it felt like I was in a fucking swamp. It felt like there were giant bats and fucking Tyrannosaurus Rexes and fucking giant spiders. Like it was very, very, very dramatic because my heart was telling me something. So what I did from the day that I turned 20 years old, I lived what I would definitely call a remarkable saga. I don't know that I've ever seen the life path that I've taken. I don't know that I've ever really seen it replicated. I don't know that I have. And effectively, what I did was I decided to wake up every day with zero plan, amnesia, thick skin, didn't give a fuck about what happened yesterday, didn't give a fuck about tomorrow. I lived every day like it was truly my last day. And all I would do with the freedom that I had of just not having a boss ruling over me or anybody lording over me for that matter was I would wake up, I would go to a high-end coffee shop. I would loiter there, get to know the staff, fuck around, be a little bit social, look at motherfuckers in the eyes. But essentially, effectively, I got myself some home turf right off the bat. And I did it in a nice area. I did it in a really fucking upscale area. And I would go to the coffee shop and then I would get bored and then go to the fucking gym. And that's where I started taking up Olympic lifting. And then I would practice my lifts. And then I'd leave the gym mid-afternoon and I'd head over to the library. And I'd fucking scan the library, pick up some fucking dusty tomes here and there, find any interesting topics that I would find, and I would just pluck a book off the shelf, fuck around with it, skim it, flip through it, read it, take a break, go for a walk in the sun, come back, read some more. Then I'd go to the gym for a 2 a day. And then I would go to dinner with a buddy of mine every night. Sometimes he would spot me because I had $0, zero income, zero job. Now, I managed to climb through my entire 20s from the day I turned 20 years old until the time I hit 30 without having a job or any steady income whatsoever. Cash flow was never interesting to me. Never had a desire to buckle down and build myself an instrument that could just bring in money every day. I literally woke up like a fucking predator every morning, and I just had to figure out how to make money through deals. So I was never a cash flow guy. I was a deal guy. Like I could go weeks basically starving and hobbled and really fucking worried about where I was going to get my next meal. And then I would just run into someone serendipitously and make a deal work out of thin air. So I was a yes man. Essentially, I accepted every invite. Anytime I was invited to a function, to an event, I'd say yes. I was just yes, 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 yes to everything. If someone asked me a question and I had no skill set, I'd say yes. And I would throw myself into the fire and figure it out along the fucking way and start solving problems. Didn't matter if I was unqualified. There was no task that I was unwilling to do as long as it was on my terms. As long as it was on my terms, I would throw myself in deep and headlong, and I would just go hard at it. My whole ethos at the time was just maximize entropy. I want to ramp up chaos as much as possible because I know at the apex of entropy is where all opportunity lies. That's a fact. So the more chaotic my life is, the more I'm roving, the more I'm roaming around, the more opportunities are 100% going to spindle. And then I sort of can cherry pick what I want to do from there. And this was a very, very topsy turvy, I want to call it anxious in the beginning. But over time, I eased into it and I became very comfortable waking up every morning with literally zero plan. Zero. The only structure of my life was the gym and my diet was A1. Now, one of the benefits of being a regular patron at a lot of the spots that I went to is sometimes I would be hungry and I would have $0 and I would have to roll up to a butcher or a restaurant, a steakhouse, whatever, and I would have to open a tab. So do you kind of see where I'm going? I was really, really exploratory with social dynamics and power games because I realized there were all sorts of rules that you could kind of bend. Like it's a very taboo thing to walk up to the owner of a restaurant and tell them, look, I need you to open a tab for me for a week. But they would do it. So I would get a lot of grace and some of these places would open a tab for me and I would eat fucking fine food and stay fueled. And then I would have to figure out where the fuck I'm going to get my next batch of cash from. And I'd end up settling with them at the end of the week. So it was a lot of stuff like that, a lot of juggling, a lot of shuffling shit around. But the epiphany that I had that was the most interesting was I was living sort of like a vagabond every day, but I was free. I was so free. I always had a good woman by me. I always had fucking friendships. I had this sort of local power in my community because I was a known face. I was out and about. I would get up in the morning at 5 a.m. and I would hit the road and I would start basically running the gauntlet and frequenting pretty much the same spots every day. So I quickly became a very, very familiar face in my neighborhood. So everywhere I would go on the street, I was kind of like the mayor. Motherfuckers are shaking my hand. I'm getting dapped up. People are giving me hugs. I treated everybody extremely polite. So when you get in a mode like that, where you really don't have income, you don't have money, you don't know where your next check's coming from, you don't even know where your next meal is coming from, but you're kind of building this little power cycle because of the familiarity. And my whole motto was, look, I could go get a job right now, 100%. I could get a fucking good job. And what? I'll probably make 100, 150K a year. But here's what I would do. I would take all the money that I would make off these little crafty little shindig side deals, and I would instantly fire them off into crazy degen bets. And I would pretty much do this every day. It didn't matter what I had in my pocket. I would pretty much empty my wallet every fucking day and fire off every dollar to my name into the abyss, knowing 98% of the time I was probably going to get clapped and lose. But I didn't give a fuck because I realized, look, every single day that I've gone broke, because I woke up every day in my 20s, especially in my early 20s, pretty much broke, flat broke. Anything that I had done or built the day before was gone. But I realized my life didn't change at all. That was the fascinating part. It was like, okay, I lost everything yesterday, but I'm still waking up. I still got a woman beside me. I'm still going to the same venues. I'm still going to figure it out. I know I can open a tab. I'm still going to get a great meal at the end of the day. I'm still living better than a motherfucker in the middle with a stable fucking white collar job making 150K a year. I'm more free than him. And here's the thing, these crazy bets that I'm doing every day, which were 100% degenerate and insane at the time, one of them's going to hit. And when one of them hits in this calendar year, I'm actually going to end up with more money than the middle motherfucker working the white collar gig. And that's what would happen. I would go on 3, 4, 5 month dry spells and then hit some absurd, statistically impossible parlay, and I'd make 250 G's. There you go. And then I would get a little bit of breathing room, and I was suffocating and belaboring myself for that 3 months prior. And the more that I would suffocate and the more that I would belabor myself, the harder I would train. See, I have a very different philosophy from a lot of the recommendations on Twitter. I believe however hard your workload is or however much stress you're under should dictate how hard you train. And my philosophy is if you are under a lot of stress and you're under a higher workload, then you have to train harder because everything has to be congruent. Everything has to match the intensity. I don't when things are light and the workload is light and you're in a fucking sabbatical and the year's coming to a downtrend, that's when most people start going to the gym. But I believe that's actually when you scale back. So the intensity that you're lifting should always mirror whatever state of being you're in a particular season. So because I was always under stress and always under a tremendous amount of pressure to survive every day, I had to train hard in order to sublimate that energy. And that's why I started getting super fucking strong. Now, all of this shit constellates together at a nexus point. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that because I was training so hard every day and I had a very robust mind and a robust physique, that athletic archetype that I had absolutely helped me majorly in my fucking conquest. Because old heads, especially old heads in business, for whatever reason, they have an affinity for young athletes. Don't know why, but if you look in any wealthy circle, there's always some kind of broke athlete, semi good looking dude floating around in those circles. Doesn't really have any money, but he's like kind of like a pivotal piece of the crew. So I was that guy. I would just get invited to shit. Keep in mind, the key component here is I didn't have to do BJJ and fucking Muay Thai at the time. I didn't have to do any of that shit because I'm circumnavigating all the bullshit that a lot of people on Twitter say they face just by going into opulent areas. Just by going into posh areas every day to do my work and frequent shit, there's no riffraff there. There's zero riffraff. You're not beefing with anybody. You're around upscale motherfuckers who are doing shit with their life. And that's where I wanted to be. So I never had to deal with morons at bars. I never had to deal with low IQ fucking morons, troglodytes. You know what I mean? I never came across Neanderthals because I always selected my spots. I wanted to be around wealthy people because I knew wealthy people would be the one to throw me a bone, throw me a deal, whatever the fuck it was. And like I said, cash flow was not interesting to me. Deals were. So I would rather starve for 2 weeks and then have some guy, some fucking jeweler in LA come to me and be like, hey, I have $1 million painting. Can you help me find a buyer? And then I'd rather fucking go ferocious hunting down a buyer for that painting so I could get a fucking 10% commission and make 100 grand. See where I'm going with this? So deals for me was the name of the game because I would either be broke or I would come into a massive windfall of money at once. But I lived every day like this. I had no plan whatsoever. I didn't give a fuck. I was willing to sacrifice my entire 20s for the life experience of maximizing entropy. The things that I would encounter on a daily basis, just in one 24-hour period, are more interesting than most people could tell you a single story in their entire life. Some of the shit that happened was so bizarre. The places that I would end up navigating to, the fucking houses, the bedrooms that I would find myself in just from fucking just roaming around like a fucking shark. You know what I mean? There were tons of times I'd go to Vegas, fire off a parlay. I'd be broke. I would not even have a flight home. I would book a one-way flight to Vegas, wager everything in my pocket, lose. I now have no flight home. I have no hotel room and I have no money for food. And then you just have to figure it out. You just have to figure it out. I'd go to the bar. I'd go see a guy that I'd fucking tipped well, a month ago. I'd go to him. He'd open me a tab. He'd get me a steak. Boom, got the steak. Then I'd have to go to a bar, meet a woman, have to go home with her. Then I'd have to fucking make a phone call next day, figure out how I'm going to book a flight, who's going to book me the flight home. Just 100% under maximum entropy at all times and just figuring it the fuck out. That was my method. Just put up shots. My only job is to put up shots. And I knew if I busted out, like I told you before, my life is literally just as good as anybody else's. I'm still going to be eating well. I'm still jacked to the fucking gills. I'm healthy. I got my 2 feet and I got a head on my shoulders. That's all I fucking need every day. And I'm going to maximize opportunity and I'm going to go around and flutter around and I'm going to fucking just seek shit. I'm going to peek under every fucking rock and fucking clap its chicks. That was the fucking goal. And I did that for 10 years. I can't even tell you what I was, what I did, what my profession was. I don't know. I don't know. It's ineffable. It's indescribable. But I made it through the gauntlet doing that. And the connections that I made along the way were absolutely absurd. Then I had a whole fucking host network of dudes who would just throw me fucking deals and opportunities left and right. And that's how I would make money. I was just like the middle guy. I'd fucking find someone or a placement or a slot for anybody who needed anything. I'd figure it out. Completely unqualified. I'm just living like a fucking bon vivant, gallivanting around town. But the most important part is I had fun. It was a game to me. I had a blast the entire fucking time. I didn't care about building a fucking business. I figured in my 30s, with the wisdom that I'm plunging from all the hellish spots that I've been in and all the network that I have, then I can fucking buckle down and build a business. You know what I mean? Like, I was very social. I was out on the prowl every day for a fucking decade. And when you're in survival mode, there's no insecurity. There's no fear. There's nothing left but action. You're not afraid to talk to women when you really are semi quasi homeless and you got no place to go. You know what I mean? It's like it's a necessity. I have to find a bad bitch who's going to take me in for the night. I can't tell you how many times I had a bitch take me in for the night when I had no place to go in my 20s. Happened all the time. Older women would take care of me. Older women would spoil me sometimes when I was fucking down on my luck. Just that type of stuff. But you can only get that when you're living at maximum entropy. Just sheer engines of chaos roaring every day. Every dollar I'm making, I'm firing it. I'm fucking firing it because I know the drought will come to an end. And let me tell you something, those times when I would hit those huge tickets after 4 straight months of just being marred in tar and my own filth, when I would have to go to Vegas to collect on the ticket, there was nothing better than collecting that huge brick of cash at the window, going up to my hotel room and airplaning face down on the bed and just taking a fucking 10-hour nap. I would just go lights out. I would just conk out, put my phone away, wake up, and just bask in the glory that Brute did it again. This motherfucker pulled it off again. I had no idea how I was pulling this off every day. I'm just waking up, doing my routine, and I'm finding opportunity. I'm finding it. I am searching under every fucking rock every day, and I'm just meeting people and I'm reaching out to them. And all of a sudden, my deal pipeline, I'm just getting calls all the fucking time to do random fucking things. Absolute random fucking things. I'm going to pocket the money and I'm just going to keep firing. I actually do think the degen gambler path is the most baller path in the sense that, and I want you to understand by gambler, I'm broad stroking that term. It doesn't mean necessarily betting on sports or blackjack. It means stacking a bunch of money and going massive on one thing that you believe in is a super baller path because it's low effort, high risk. And I think the low effort, high risk path is gangster as fuck. The slightly maybe more baller path, but you have to have an IQ probably above 140 to pull this off, is the degen investor. Degen investor is a phenomenal path as well. We all know that those motherfuckers are stacking money. People who just exclusively invest. For me and my nature, the high effort, low risk path of building a business, which you could sacrifice 20, 25 years of your life. Yeah, you get a nice exit at the end, but that 20, 25 years of those precious times when you're in your 20s and you're still malleable and you're durable, they're gone, which is the shitty part. So you don't have the wisdom of getting your heart broken. You don't know how to deal with conflict. You don't know how to deal with women that are going psycho on you. You don't know how to deal with stalkers. You don't know how to deal with sociopaths. You don't know how to deal with fucking psychopaths, sharks in business. Everyone's trying to fucking hustle you. You don't learn any of that. But when you're living the way I lived in my 20s, you learn all that shit real quick because you're always in fucking fight or flight mode. So you learn how to deal with psycho women. You don't need a red pill. You know what I mean? You're actually snorting blue and red pills because the truth is relatively impractical. And so when you're in this state of mind, you're constantly gassing yourself up, and you got to basically, the mindset every day is you got to tell yourself you're the handsomest, funniest, fastest, strongest, baddest motherfucker in the room. That's the blue pill. And I think every man should be walking around like that because, like I said, the truth is completely impractical. So you might as well walk around with that attitude. And that's what I would do my entire fucking 20s. And it didn't matter if I lost or won. I was the same person every fucking day because I'm just having a good time. And so that's the beauty of that path. And that path is extremely, extremely bone crushingly intense. You know, you will have fucking tremors. You will experience basically the entire pantheon of emotions on a daily basis. So in one 24-hour period, you're effectively killing an entire life because you're cycling through on a gradient scale every possible emotion in the book. You know what I mean? You go from immense hope to immense despair. There's times when you don't even know how you're picking up your body and how you're continuing to drive yourself on because it just seems so hopeless. But you never know what you're capable of until you have to do something. And so the survival thing was phenomenal. And it just kind of goes back to my whole point about the whole dark hearted nature is what sort of drives all of these personality characteristics forward. It's true. That video that I did the other day about being fat, I thought that that was an incredible example because it is true. The billionaire, the conqueror, and the fat guy are all the same. They are literally the fucking same person because the billionaire has to become a billionaire. The fat guy has to eat. You know what I mean? The drug addict has to use drugs. They have to do that. And I don't even want to call those unfortunate conditions or even unfortunate afflictions because they're not. What it means is you have to overpower that compulsion so much to where it's actually minimized in comparison. You know what I mean? The Jordan example. Jordan built a multi fucking the guy's probably a billionaire empire specifically specifically so he could fucking fund his gambling addiction. You know what I mean? Like, it took him his entire life to build a mechanism, a juggernaut on wheels that's that fucking powerful to where he could feed whatever you want to call it, his lesser angels, right? But this is where people get it so fucking twisted. What you don't understand is the host personality that you have is the linchpin is so frail. Like, you really don't understand until you start getting into behavior modification and you start trying to take a scalpel and delete these parts of your personality that you don't like. You don't realize by removing one, you've actually tipped over a domino, and you don't understand how it can actually decimate other aspects of your personality that are holding the system together. That's the problem. So, and again, fellas, we're talking about a true food addict fat guy, right? Not some fucking loser who just fucking eats trash and gets fat for the talk of it. I'm talking about a guy who truly just has a passion for life and a fire in his belly that just loves to eat. Those types of fat motherfuckers, you know what I mean? Those are the types that need to lean into the fucking nature, is what I'm trying to tell you. Because it does spurn an entire host of necessary defense mechanisms that pop into place. I used funny as the primary example, but these motherfuckers are also, they love to hold court in public space, right? If you've ever been at a dining table, look at the motherfucker who usually gets the most airtime at the helm of the table, or the guy who talks the most or has the limelight the entire time. It's usually the big fat guy. That guy loves to hold court. You know what I mean? But that defense mechanism is only possible because he's the big fat guy. And it's like when you start doing behavior modification and you start tearing things in yourself apart that you don't like, and you start denying that they exist, the entire system falls apart. And that is a hell of a lot scarier than doubling down on what God gave you. That's 100 times freakier, because you're going to lose your identity and you're going to be in a vast chasm, a vacuous chasm of emptiness, and you're never going to really know who you are. This is why I told you guys, the RX on Twitter, that every male is supposedly going to get more confidence and be a fucking indomitable, indubitable spirit if they fucking lift weights. That is a retarded, asinine concept. That makes zero sense. Some people's physiognomy literally does not match a jacked body. You know what I mean? Like, some people are literally just not meant to be jacked. And if they were, they'd be very fucking uncomfortable in their skin. Very, very fucking uncomfortable. So that is not a one size fits all thing at all. You know what I mean? And even with myself, I see motherfuckers on Twitter, they're like, I want to be more like you. So dudes are fucking getting mohawks, smoking cigs, Olympic lifting. It's like, you don't understand. The fat guy munching on fettuccine Alfredo and being a lazy piece of shit who's at least leaning into his nature, his philosophy is more like mine than the faker pretender trying to smoke cigs and start fucking shooting bets off to be more like me. The fat guy's way more like me in his core philosophy because he's being himself. And that's all I've ever preached or ever implored anyone to do on this platform. Is I want people to get closer to their edge, and I want people to get closer to God, in the sense that I want you to be more of who you are supposed to be without making these little bizarre incisions in your personality. It makes zero sense to do that. I'm not joking. I've never seen somebody who had a severe, first of all, it's a very gay attitude to life. If your urges are so weak that you can actually control your urges, you have no passion for life whatsoever. Your urges to do things should be so strong that the fire inside you would literally burn you to the ground if you didn't indulge it. You know what I mean? Like, that's masculine. Your fire should be burning so hard that you have to displace it, or it's going to nuke you off the face of the fucking earth. That's what it should be. So this bizarre pattern of guys going into abstinence. Abstinence is a joke. Abstinence is easy. Anybody can abstain from anything. It's way harder to lean deeper into the thing that you want to do and own it, and just own it and figure out how to weave it into the greater tapestry and infrastructure of your soul and keep rocking with it, keep walking up the mountain with it. Because, like I said, you don't understand the crutches that you use. Nobody seems to really, the human mind is terrible at understanding the totality of itself. So, very simple mechanisms that people tinker with. A lot of guys will stop smoking, for example. They're like, I know smoking's bad for me. I want to stop. You don't understand when you take away something simple as smoking, you don't understand that you could topple the entire personality like fucking Pompeii. You know what I mean? Like, you might have actually just unleashed Mount Vesuvius on yourself because you don't understand that you're coping, right? Smoking's a cope. Everything's a cope. Civilization is pushed forward through cope. Coping is the greatest fucking tool in a human being's arsenal, by the way. Whenever someone comes at you for coping, they're highlighting your strength. 1,000,000% of the time. Coping is a phenomenal fucking thing in the human spirit. It's like, what else are you supposed to do when you're in pain and you're hurt and you're fucked up? Supposed to not cope? The fuck are you talking about? Coping has literally built everything that you love in this life. Everything you love in this life is built on cope, from jet planes to skyscrapers to the fucking roads that you drive on. Someone coped their way to fucking build that. That's a fucking fact, to get out of the agony that they're in. Great art is built off of cope. You know what I mean? 5'7", short, ugly motherfucker gets rich as fuck and starts getting the women that you want. He coped his way to get there. How the fuck can you bash that? What the fuck was he supposed to do? Just be a 5'7", scrappy little fucking loser? Nah, fuck no. He was supposed to awaken the fucking kraken within and do exactly what he did, which is become successful. By the way, something very interesting. I was going to tweet about this. For every point a man is higher on the 10 scale, for every point that a woman is higher on the 10 scale than 7.5, a man is lower. So 10 females always date 5 men in attractiveness. That's a fact. Look at the hottest women in the world, the perfect 10. She's going to be with a 5 male. 9s are with 6s, and 7.5s are all banging each other. That's how that scale works. So, Beauty and the Beast, I know I talked about this before. It's one of the best fucking cartoons ever because it's got first of all, it's got the hyper stylized, hyper masculine archetype in the form of Gaston. You know, that motherfucker's like slunking fucking raw eggs, firing off rifles, being slightly misogynistic, as right wing a principled man as you could possibly come across in any sort of archetypal fashion. But that movie's phenomenal because, you know, the whole thing is she thinks she can change the beast into a man. And in the end, unfortunately, the ending was super gay. I would have done it completely differently. But the Beauty and the Beast archetype, like, that makes the most sense. You know what I mean? Like, I keep telling you guys this. If you want to rescue a woman from the workforce, which I call Hades, you have to be a monstrosity that's more powerful than Hades and have her follow you out of that road to hell. And you have to craft yourself into a monstrosity in order to get this woman out of the fucking workforce, because the workforce is 100% beleaguering women's ability to stay feminine. We've talked about this. The longer a woman stays in the workforce, the more she gets beaten down and assimilated into her masculine. So it's just common sense. Like, if you're trying to get women, if you're having trouble approaching, literally go to fucking coffee shops, go to fucking restaurants where you see new hostesses and servers. Those women are dying to get the fuck out of those jobs. They're literally dying to get the fuck out. It's almost like that's an audition. They're at those jobs specifically auditioning for some monstrosity to come in there and be like, nah, you're not doing this anymore. You're coming with me. Boom, take her out. That simple. That fucking simple. That's a fucking tried and tested strategy that's worked over and over again. I'm highly debating opening up the floor again, but It's going to be ruthlessly enforced. Like I said, this is not a podcast. I don't want motherfuckers trying to hold court, or I will slap the gavel down and just instantly kick you off. The format is not really a conversational sonata. If you want to ask a question, and that's that. We keep it moving. So I'm thinking about doing that right now. I just gave you some grist for the mill and some food for thought. Let's see what we got.
What's up, bro?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, big fan, man. Appreciate your work. Quick question. That way we can run it down and get
Yeah.
everyone here to talk. So you talked about your edge and this and that. How do I, as a man, I'm 22. How do I find my edge? I am a musician. I play music. I have a band everyone could check out right now. It's called Cosmic 67. Is music my edge, or do I need to like? What can you help me out finding my edge? Basically, is what I'm asking.
I mean, look, if you have to ask, the answer is always no. That's sort of my rule of thumb. I would say it sounds more like a pet project of yours. If you don't have a discernible talent or some kind of edge by like the age of 25, and this is just like a rough hewn estimate, um, I'm not joking. I think the path forward is always to become a hyper normie. Because like a lot of guys don't, because this is like one of the biggest questions that I get. People ask me all the time, how do I find my talent, Brood? How do I find my fucking edge? How do I find my mission? It's like what these guys don't understand is that if you don't have a discernible talent early in life, your best bet, like you can go very far in this world being lukewarm without an edge. You can go very far if you dress well, if you're not autistic about it. Like there's plenty of people who have pushed the envelope and gone a lot farther than they were supposed to go on paper just by being hyper normie. I think hyper normie is pretty an underrated path for a lot of people. It's very underrated. If you have an edge, let me explain this to you right now because this will clarify the question for good. You would know by now because your edge is painful. Your edge hurts you. That's why it's called an edge. You know what I mean? Like that's the point. No pun intended. That's the point. But the edge is always the thing that hurts. It's something that's capable of causing great harm to you if you don't unleash it, if that makes sense. And it's usually discovered in the form of a destructive tendency that, if not sublimated, becomes extraordinarily destructive. And that's why you see many people implode and get wiped off the map. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you. All right, thanks, bro.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Ayers.
Yo, Brute. Uh,
What's up, buddy?
yeah, I'm good, man. I hear you talk about what you go through. You know, when you're younger, it seems like there's something more that's driving you. Like you kind of had this unwavering faith in something. Now, I've kind of been tempted and gone down the path of religion, believing in faith and God, but it seems to almost numb the edge that I have because I seem to abstain from a lot of things that previously gave me almost personality and gave me a little bit of fire. So as of now, I've kind of been going off that path, but kind of delving into more like impulsive feelings. I'm not sure if you have an opinion on this, whether it's good or bad
I
or.
do. I do have an opinion on this, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. This modern culture in 2023. There's a lot of safety nets. I almost want to call them Venus flytraps that will catch you if you fall. There's a lot of self-help groups, religions. There's a lot of groups that will take you in and embrace you in open arms if you fall on your merry way. And what happens is, and look, I will broad stroke this and tell you all ideology to me is lame. I don't fuck with any ideology. I don't fuck with Christianity. I don't fuck with Islam. I don't fuck with any of that stuff for one simple reason. It's a copium. A lot of it is a fucking copium, number one, right? Which, as I said, cope is good. So I think that's good for a lot of people. But when things are going well, you don't have to chalk it up to any ideology. It's just sometimes things are serendipitous. You know what I mean? Like sometimes things are just happening rather effortlessly and there's no explanation for it. And I think that's a great fucking segue into the modern culture. If you're not getting things in 2023 rather effortlessly, you're a loser. Money's literally everywhere right now. Money's literally everywhere. Jobs are not that fucking hard. You can lease any car. Beautiful women are running around. Clothes are cheap. Like, we live in the most abundant age of all time. Life's really not that difficult. So if you can't get things going and figure out what you want in this day and age, I don't even know what to say. Those are the guys I just pretty much turn my back on, because we are in the age of abundance. We're actually in a more microscopic, you can sort of hone in deeper. We're in the age of the average man, really, is what we are. We're in the age of the everyman, the altogether man, because the top has been cropped. We've sort of cropped the top now. Like, the second in charge is where all the glory is right now. That's sort of where I get the suspicion and the feeling. If you look at all these powerful influencers, and if you look at all these powerful companies and shit, there's always a hype man. There's always a secondary right hand man who's pulling the levers behind the scenes, and that guy's the one cleaning up right now. That guy's the one cleaning up because he doesn't have the fame, he doesn't have the limelight, he doesn't have the spotlight, but he's rolling in the bank. He's probably got a fucking wife and a family and beautiful kids, and he's just crushing it behind the curtain, and he's a shadow man. So I don't even think the top is glamorous anymore, and I think it's scaling down. So second in command, I think right now is the best position in the world to be in. You know what I mean? Like a second tier executive, fucking phenomenal position to be in. You don't want to be an Elon, you don't want to be a fucking Zucker, none of those guys. You don't want to be any of those guys. Elon Musk has $230 billion and he can't even lock down a woman. He's still thinking about Grimes. Like, what more? Like, what more proof that just money itself doesn't do jack shit than that? Like, that dude literally has been unable to stably maintain a relationship with a woman, and he's worth 230 billion with a fucking B. Look at Mark Zuckerberg. He's taken the fucking autist to jacked autist track, right? He's trying to get jacked. He's doing this whole MMA stunt to try to repair his image. But you know why his image is still on the floor? Because of his wife. Just go look at his wife. Like, until he fixes that issue, his image ain't going anywhere. So he can get as jacked as he wants. He can look like fucking Zac Efron. It's not going to fix his image because he's got a wife problem. So all those motherfuckers are suffering from the same thing, but it goes back to my point, dude. Ideology is super fucking gay. I think you ever seen that movie Prestige? It's my favorite movie of all time because it shows the definition of a natural compared to a non-natural. And in that movie, the guy who's competing with the other guy always loses. That's the thing nobody fucking understands. As soon as you are chasing the winner, you're always going to lose. The winner's always just chilling. You know what I mean? The winner is always just kicking back, chilling. The minute you're chasing anything or chasing the winner, you're fucked. It's game over. The winner's just chilling in his little fucking alcove, comfy as fuck. So I think that pretty much summarizes a lot of what you're going through. And look, man, I mean, look, some people when they fall on their journey, they need those ideologies and they need those crutches to fall back on. I'm not fucking vilifying that at all. I'm just saying once you go through that buzzsaw, it's very hard to reclaim that fire that you're saying you're struggling with, because they, by necessity, they will make you bow down and they will take that away as you polish their boots and kiss the ring. But here's the thing. All of those ideologies have one thing in common, right? Structure and discipline. That's why people who lose their footing in life like to fall back on that infrastructure, because they're going to teach you a doctrine of living. They're going to teach you structure and discipline. Now, here's the thing. With structure and discipline, you're never going to go broke, but you're also never going to have a fucking threesome. Does that make sense? Like, you're never going to experience the wild side of life, but you'll also never go broke. And I think swinging in between, this is sort of my whole central thesis. This is a great question that you asked, because I think swinging in between being a loser and being a winner is actually the best thing you can do in life, because you will strike a golden middle at some point. I don't think you want to stay in either one of those departments for too long. You don't want to be a loser forever, and you don't really want to be at the top forever either. You want to kind of figure out how to swing back and forth and strike that fucking golden perfection, that golden mean. And I think everybody's, the male struggle is sort of figuring that out. So that was a good question, brother.
Yeah, man, I appreciate the knowledge.
Yo, yo, Adler.
Yo, what's up, Root? Quick
What's up,
question.
brother?
So you've touched on fate and destiny in the past. I was just wondering, in your opinion, what do you think? What do you think? Not fighting against your own nature and aligning with what's in your cards looks like
You talking about me personally?
in general. Like, what does it look like when someone is not fighting with their own nature?
So it's like this. I do believe every problem in life has a solution. Okay, I do not believe there's any human problem that is not insurmountable in a person's personal life. However, however, I think it's a very important addendum to add to that not all problems are worth solving. Sometimes you actually do have to let the chips fall where they may and let your destiny guide you and let it play out. Let fate do its tricks, do its magic tricks. Because you can be too strong as a man. It's possible to actually be too strong where you're just constantly overpowering everything. And this is something that I've personally struggled with my whole life. My whole 20s story that I just shared with you, the end result of that was I became way too strong. And now I'm so strong that anything that hurts me or anything that comes my way, it's very easy for me to just discard it rather than rolling with it and kind of letting myself drift and kind of enjoy the flow of life. Because I'm so fucking tough from everything I've been through that it sort of has given me a very jaded attitude to everything. And so I think part of leaning into your natural fate, you know what I mean? Whatever the bishops or the blackjacks or whatever those gods are sort of stewarding you towards, I think it's important sometimes to just let yourself go into the stream and kind of drift a little bit and kind of let, like I was talking about the other day, the subconscious mind sort of figure out and calculate these issues. Because yes, every problem is solvable, but sometimes you just have to say, dude, it sucks. What you're going through fucking sucks. And sometimes that's actually the answer. It just sucks and you just got to go through it. It's like when you're super strong and you're super tough and you have the kind of shell that I've built, it's like I can just bulldoze and truck my way through everything in my life. I can literally blast through and hack and slash through every fucking problem that I have. But you lose a lot of the, I almost want to call it, you lose a lot of the juice of life itself. You know what I mean? It just makes you sort of jaded. It's like joy is not real, but misery is. I always tell guys this. I'm like, dude, joy is not a real thing. It's not something you can ever hold on to. You cannot internalize joy. That is not a state of mind or a state of being, or it's not even a mode. You cannot internalize the sensation of joy. It's a fleeting, temporary sensation that should be ravaged and massacred for all it's worth. But misery is real because misery can be internalized. Misery can be deeply internalized as a mode and as a state of being. And a lot of the greats and the figures that I talked about in my preamble today, a lot of them are harnessing that energy because joy is nothing. I mean, let's be honest for a second. In nature itself, there's not a lot of positive, right? Nature is somewhat of a miserable thing. There's a lot of like dark negative forces are a lot more powerful in nature itself than the positive. And that's why I'm pro drug, by the way, because most people do not know how to escape the middle. And what drugs do, and I'm talking about performance drugs like motherfuckers jumping on steroids, Adderall, shit like that, Coke, whatever the fuck people do. Drugs are not my thing because I'm one of the blessed ones who has a great personal struggle to overcome. And the negativity fuels me far harder than any drug could possibly fuel me. So I run off the fumes of just the negativity that I've been surrounded with in my life. And that propels me to great heights. However, for people that don't have a genuine great personal struggle to tap into, drugs are the only thing that's going to really get them out of the middle because there's not a lot of positive to work with. So they don't really have the fuel or the ammunition or the gunpowder. The powder keg is often dry. So those are the guys who jump on fucking steroids and Adderall and Coke and try to be ballers and CEOs. Like that actually does work. It pushes them out of the middle. My whole fucking mantra on Twitter is I just want to get as many people who are destined for it out of the middle because I think middle is fucking hell on earth. So I would rather you either be on the fucking worst end of the bell curve or the high end because that's where all the juice in life is. And I just despise the middle so much. I have like a personal bone to pick with it. So a lot of my philosophy is very aggressive, and it's very antagonistic to that style of living because I know how brutal it is. It's like the 140K a year to 240K a year salary. Like if you make between 140 to 250K a year, that's the no pussy zone. Those guys don't have any women around them because you're not rich and the job is just hard enough. It's in that zone where the job is just difficult enough where there's no women around. You know what I mean? So that's like a perfect encapsulation of what I mean by the middle. Like anybody will tell you, the guys that are making 150 to 250K a year, they struggle immensely in the dating scene. They can't find a wife. They can't lock down a chick. They're just always on the fucking struggle bus spinning their wheels. You know what I mean? And I feel for those motherfuckers. Do you have anything to add to that? Because I actually really like your account and I agree with a lot of your takes.
Yeah, there's a lot there. As far as if I have anything to add, honestly, I kind of come into these things the same way that most people come into them, just to learn and listen and absorb. A bit of a younger cat, so there's not much that I could add that would kind of add too much to that. But yeah, man, I appreciate it.
Right on, brother. By the way, I mean, his question was so good because, he's talking about intervention. He's talking about sort of interfering with your fate. And we've talked about this before. America is the perfect land. It is the holy land for the ambitious and driven bulls. It just is, because a lot of what happens in America is it's people making phantasmagoric mistakes and then just outrunning the fuck out of those mistakes and patching it along the way. That's literally the perfect snow globe. If you could put America in a snow globe and give it a synopsis, that's what it is. It's maniacs running around making sometimes horrific mistakes, but if you move quickly enough and you let your subconscious sort of take over and problem solve, like we were just discussing, you can patch a lot of that stuff up down the road. And that's a lot of what happens within high level companies. Like if you look under the hood of a lot of these companies that are functioning, they're very dysfunctional because the people running them are out of their fucking head. And America 100% rewards that behavior. America rewards that type of behavior, rewards people who move very quickly past their mistakes. The people who dwell and harp on it, they sink in quicksand and they get fucking dealt out of the game pretty quickly. Let's take another one. What's up, Nate? Nate, what's up, bro? Yo, if you're talking, I can't hear a word. I don't think anybody else can. I'm gonna pull up another speaker. Amin, what's up, buddy? Amin, you're on. Motherfuckers disrupting the flow over here. Yo, Lorenzo, you're up. What's up?
Soon, right? And I've always had this issue of like, ever since I was a kid, I was good at a bunch of different things, but my parents could never figure out like what I was good at. So like, what would you recommend for me to do?
They're not supposed to figure that out for you, man. Like, that's That's 100% a very intimate, personal thing. You know how I was talking about making money making money, like the way you decide to make money for yourself is the most hyper personalized aspect of your personality. That's why I don't really believe in teaching people how to make money. I don't believe in any of that bullshit because that's not how life works. Like your art is very unique to you. Now, are you asking me how to figure out what your talent is?
Uh,
I don't really understand what you're asking.
like, I just don't know which direction to take because my whole life they've tried to groom me into certain areas, and like I feel like I haven't been able to find anything because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're in a rut. So when you're in a rut, the only solution is to run yourself into the fucking ground. That's my answer to that. If you are in a rut, and that this is just for anybody listening, if you are in a serious rut and you have been stagnating for fucking 6 months, run your body and mind into the fucking ground. Because that's what it's going to require to make a change. And then you will figure it the fuck out. Remember, I always told you necessity is the mother of all invention? Brother, you are never going to take an action or decide on a course until you have to. Your parents are making it too easy on you, buddy. They're probably giving you a roof over your head. They're probably paying your bills every month. You don't have to pick a path, bro. You're fucking, the body craves homeostasis. It's always going to take the easy way out. As long as you know your parents are going to back you, you ain't going to fucking take any leaps of faith. So run your fucking self into the fucking floor, and I guarantee you the clarity in your mission will come to you. That's the thing, is you don't ever find your mission finds you. If you have to search, hunt, seek, and destroy to get your mission, that ain't a mission. Your mission finds you. Your obsession finds you. That's why it's called an obsession. You had no part, you had no conscious part in making that decision. It feels like it came from divinity. Appreciate the question.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Helps a lot.
Ruthless, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Brew, I joined a little bit late. Can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Yo, you're
Yeah,
up.
can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I don't want to sound rude, but to my understanding, your last marriage resulted in a divorce, and I know like you went through a divorce when you were younger as well. So I just wanted to know, like, is there anything specific you were going to do to like remedial the fact for maybe like Brute Junior? Because like you said, it affected your life a lot when you were younger. So I wanted to know, like, are you going to like make Brute Junior kind of figure out how to go through that parental split on his own, or do you have a plan for that at all?
Nah, man. I mean, I'm a very, very active, proactive father. It's like I've told you before, man. You still have to lord over the unit. When babies are very, very little, they very much are far more dependent upon their mom. And when they get older, then when I say older, I'm talking about like toddler age. Once they hit about 3 years old, which my son is 3 years old, then they definitely have stricter and stronger requirements for sort of that masculine force to come in and guide them and teach them and shit. But yeah, man, I mean the divorce is fucking irrelevant. I'm 100% a proactive father. And as you can tell by my last string of tweets, I mean that's sort of the galleyway that I'm sort of headed down. I'm sort of dismantling a lot of this fucking Twitter philosophy of the man being out of the house and shit. I think most of that stuff's absolute fucking bullshit and garbage. I think in order to have power over a household, I think the man has to be present and in the game with his woman very often.
About women, so if you don't mind, you said like making money is one of the most hyper personalized aspects of your identity. Do you think the same thing applies to women when it comes to marriage? Like you cannot taught to be maybe like maintain a long relationship, but you have to figure it out on yourself.
Ask that again, that last part.
You think like how making money is hyper personalized? Do you think in the same way that like figuring out how to keep a relationship is something you can like read advice on and then implement, or is it like something you have to learn through it yourself?
Dude, I don't think you learn how to be good in female relationships by going through a bunch of female relationships. I think you become really good at female relationships by being good at life. Like the life experience you get from business, male conflicts that you've had, a lot of that stuff is the stuff that becomes very valuable within the context of a relationship. Because ultimately, I've said this before, a woman just wants to know, like a woman gets most of her sanity and comfort in a relationship by knowing that she cannot fool you. That's it. It's very simple. In its basic form, a woman wants to know that she cannot overwhelm you with her tests. It's that simple. Like you see all of her bullshit coming a mile away. And when she pulls it on you, you can fucking grin at it. That's it. That's how you make a woman feel completely safe at home with you, is that she knows she's never going to pull one over the head. Even little things, man. Like, just so many little fucking tells, man. Just being rock solid. Like, being rock solid in a relationship just has to do with all of your life experience combined. It's like just being desensitized, I think, is a very male, I think is a very masculine energy. By the way, masculine energy is a very dumb energy. Like, if you've noticed, a lot of very smart, doesn't matter how high your IQ is as a man, masculine energy is dumb. And it's supposed to be that way. It's supposed to be dumb because that's sort of what the hunter doesn't really predict the future. It just is, it's a capitalist. It seeks on opportunity that presents itself in the moment. So it's dumb in that way. It doesn't really need to calibrate too far ahead. It has faith and full confidence that every single day it's just going to put its best foot forward and things are going to work out. And that could be considered dumb when you have a neocortex. But yeah, man, that's pretty much the crux of that answer. I'm going to move on.
Hey, what's up, Brute?
Dude, I got like fucking
Can you hear me okay?
100 requests to speak right now. Shit, this shit's ridiculous. Yeah. What's up, bro? Yo, you're on.
So, I struggle a lot with the self-talk, and I listen to a lot of your spaces, and I get the whole self-talk concept. But basically, I'm divorced. I got 4 kids with my ex. I just had a new kid with my girlfriend now, and she has 1 kid from her prior relationship. And what I struggle with is, I try to see my kids as much as I can. I do a lot with them, very active. But then I'm taking care of her my kids I'm with. And so I try to get myself out of that by saying stuff like, "Hey, man, it's okay. You're influencing this kid's life in a positive way. She's a good woman. He's a good kid. That dad's not in the picture. It's up to you now." But what do you recommend, like on those periods where you get in those small ruts to just self your talk out of that mood that you're in, without
Dude, your
visibly
mic
showing it?
is severely fucked up, dude. I literally cannot hear anything you're saying. I'm gonna move on. Try to reconnect in a bit. I just want to keep the flow going. Yo, Taha. Yo, Taha.
Can I go in?
Yeah, bro. Go on.
Thanks, Bert. So I got zeroed out this week, and it's been a process of just me not doing shit for the last few months, even though I know I am going to be in a bad situation. But I can figure out why I let myself go so fucking bad. I have like bills to pay. My girlfriend, I broke up with her like 6 months ago, so I had a lot of shit going on that I could have used as fuel, but I didn't want to go down that path. Um,
You don't want to go down what path of solving it?
yeah, I mean, maybe it's just like using,
You're saying you're letting everything fucking destroy,
yeah,
correct? Yeah, I mean, dude, that's a natural fucking cycle. I mean, I completely understand that. Sometimes a lot of men will just let things, they want the fire to lick closer at their feet before they take action. You know what I mean? I mean, it goes back to my fundamental principle of men will never change unless they absolutely have to. And obviously, you don't like the situation that you're in, and so you're fucking trying to topple Rome. I mean, I get that because you're looking for some kind of renaissance from that. I mean, you just got to ask yourself one question. Sometimes that's rooted in fucking cowardice because what I see a lot of men do is a lot of men want everybody else to make the first move. And I believe all male depression is 100% a result of waiting for someone else to make the first move. That's where male depression stems from. In your situation, it seems to me that a lot of men they don't have the balls to essentially extricate themselves from a bad situation, so they want somebody else to do it. So a guy will be with a girl he doesn't like, and then he doesn't have the balls to leave, so he'll purposely just fuck up the relationship so she leaves him. Or he'll be at a job that he fucking hates, and then he'll purposely, subconsciously start doing shit because he wants to get fired. Very few men have the balls to take the initiative and be the one to make the exit, because then they have someone else to blame, right? The girl, they can fucking blame the girl. She left him. Now the whole narrative has changed away from your favor. And so if you're playing that game with yourself, which is extremely self-deceptive, then that's just fucking cowardice.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Oh, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Oh yeah. Sorry, my mic was playing there. Yeah, how you doing, guys? I mean, I'm not married. It's just I
Yo, yo,
joined this
yo, yo,
space.
yo, yo, yo. You got to jump right into a question, brother, when you get up here. We're not, we're
Okay,
not, we're not doing backstories. If you don't have a question, I'm going to keep it moving.
okay, what's the question? I mean,
No, 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 stop. Hold on, we got a D coming up here. Dude, this shit is taking forever to connect. Yo, Bolo.
Hey, bro, can you hear me?
What's up, buddy? Gentlemen, you have to understand, I have literally over 100 requests right now to speak. So if you come up here, like, be chamber loaded, be ready to fucking move along. Like, stop with the fucking stuttering and backstories. Have a fucking question queued up and let's go.
All right, bro. I wanted your thoughts on a young guy moving out of home.
How old are you?
I'm 19, and I just started making my first money online. Started paying a bit off my mother's mortgage, and I'm in two minds whether I should move out or not.
100% you should. I think it's the best. I think it's really the only rite of passage left in the modern society is the man who goes on that sort of call to adventure. I don't think any young man should be still chilling at home past the age of 18. I think it's an absolute atrocity on his own masculinity, and I think it's an atrocity on the human spirit. 100%. That's just my fucking sort of blasé take on that.
Yep, 100%. Thank you.
By the way, I really don't even like the whole fucking the whole mantra. Like, there's a whole thing on Twitter right now where motherfuckers are. I sort of get the roommate thing when you're young, but like, if you're a guy living with like 5 dudes and shit, and you're all splitting rent, trying to make it in life, like that's number one, pussy repellent. Number two, it's just kind of gay. Like, there's something about being a young man and standing on your own fucking 2 feet and stabbing your fucking flag into the soil and saying this is my territory. Like, I'm seeing this is becoming more and more popular, and I mean, I'm gonna fucking flesh this out deeper, but I have a feeling it's rooted in a lot of fear. A lot of fucking fear. There's a lot of fear associated with these guys that are sort of going into these models. It's like, I don't understand the whole thing about 5 roommates. Like, when you walk into your bathroom, do you have to fucking clean the pubes off your toothbrush because like one of your roommates' pubes is just like floating through the air when you shower? Like, to me, it's just absolutely fucking bizarre. It's absolutely bizarre. Like, you should have a network of people, but I don't understand why people are piling up on top of each other and having fucking bunk mates. That just seems extremely fucking weird, and it's sort of a way of circumventing just kind of attacking the world. Especially as a young man, there has to be a very long stretch of time where you have solitude. That's how you find yourself, like solitude, quiet nights by yourself. where nobody knows what your problems are and you got to just sort of figure it out and you got to go through the pain. That's where all the breakthroughs happen. But it's like having an accountability partner all the time where you're spilling your guts out and they know exactly what you're going through and you're getting bombarded with advice. What it does is it sort of smears and rubs out that solitude. And that solitude is extremely, extremely valuable when you're a young man. And I would say years of that. I mean, that's what I did. I fucking had a ton of solitude and alone time when I would go on fucking heroic missions and crazy fucking journeys. Nobody knew where I was at. No one knew if I was dead or alive. And that's exactly the way I wanted it because I was finding myself and I was 100% responsible for my actions. And I think that's the fucking best way to do it. I'd like to see more guys going fucking on solo journeys. Go fucking backcountry skiing. You want to talk about tinkering with the fucking fear mechanism? Go do that type of shit and don't tell anybody that you're going because you're going to be forced to fight and come back. I think this guy connected, or maybe not. Let's get Caesar up here. Yo, Caesar.
Yo, bro, can you hear me?
Yes.
It's been a minute. I hope you're doing well. Didn't expect to come up, but I do have a question. So in terms of your, I'd say philosophy, I've been following it for a year. Now my question is around self-sabotage. So I know some of the people here that are listening, shout out to my guy Matt, but I made around $1 million when I was 19. Right now, obviously I lost a large majority of it. And the reasoning behind it isn't, the same as most crypto people will not. It's so from a point of view of self-sabotage. So it's been a thing where from a young age, a lot of people have been relying on me. Originally, I'm from Somalia, and there's no government there. So whenever I've made money, I'd have to send it back home. Now I'm 20, 21, turning 22 soon. But in terms of the mentality, obviously that was a big loss. So it's played and it's ruminated on my mind. And in terms of going forward, building stuff, which was a strength of mine, it sort of slowed me down. So in terms of the sort of, I'd go in depth, but I'm also wary of the time.
Bro, you got to speed up the question,
Yeah,
man. Get to the point.
it's basically on self-sabotage and ways to mitigate that, because I know that's pretty much it.
Dude, what did we just discuss in the beginning of the show? We discussed that all men will self-implode and self-sabotage if they don't sublimate that energy. I mean, if you don't have a mission or you don't have a higher funnel to basically plug that shit into to feed whatever hunger is sort of pining after you and biting at you, of course you're gonna fucking self-destruct. That energy has nowhere else to go. That energy has nowhere else to go. It's the difference between fighting against yourself and working with yourself. It's like I've always told you, most people, when they go to the gym, they have to harass and humiliate themselves mentally just to push themselves into the gym because it's not their true nature. They're forcing themselves into an activity that, yes, it's healthy, but it's not really who they are. And so they have to slave drive themselves. They have to pull out a whip and they have to lacerate themselves mentally over and over and over again to the point of mental abuse just to get themselves to do a fucking rep of bench press, because that's how much they hate going to the fucking gym. You know what I mean? For me, it's the opposite. I've always been an athlete. Me going to the gym is as trivial as walking to my fucking car. So my point is, by me going to the gym, I'm honoring that energy that I have. By me getting strong as fuck, I'm honoring the energy that I have. It takes zero effort for me to pull myself into the gym. I can do it at 2:00 in the morning. I'm happy to lift. It's just who I am. That's what the voice that whispers in my head tells me to do. And so you have to figure that out. You have to that energy, man. Like, making money on its own is not the thing. It's not the fucking endpoint. We just talked about a bunch of rich dorks who still struggle in life. Like, that's not the goal. The goal is to build mechanisms and systems around you that can feed whatever darker aspects of yourself are looming so that you don't fucking hurt yourself. That's the idea. Like, I said it, but Michael Jordan became the greatest basketball player of all time. No one wants to acknowledge this. Specifically, and this is all subconscious, specifically so he could fund his gambling habit. That's a fact. If he didn't have that dark, degenerate nature inside him, he never would have had the impetus or the moxie to become the best basketball player of all time. That's how fucking powerful and ferocious that energy is. It's primal. And if you don't do anything with it, then you're just a name on a tombstone that nobody remembers. You know what I'm
100%.
saying? You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So the only way, and I'm convinced of this more and more as I go through life, the only way to beat an affliction is to literally inhale its spirit until it's been consumed so much and so often that it has a sort of a nullified effect on you. It has a dulled effect because you're applying that energy into something that's way more vast and expansive than you could possibly imagine. You have to have an empire. You have to become so powerful that substance, whatever it is that's been holding you back, has a nullified effect. That's how you mitigate it. That you have to become a phenom. There's no choice for the chosen ones that are born with an affliction. You have no option. If you're an addict and you can't stop hurting yourself or abusing yourself, you have no choice but to embark on the greatest adventure of your life and build an empire. You need infrastructure. You need people around you. You have to build that yourself so that you have an engine that's constantly churning out resources in order to mitigate that. That's literally the only answer.
Awesome. I
That's
think
why
the main,
that's why rehab doesn't work. It's why talking about your problems don't work,
yeah,
because those urges are way more powerful than words. Do you understand? These are primal facets of life. Nobody has figured out how to rip out the plumbing. Like, that central nervous system is wired a specific way, and no one has been able to get deep enough and crack the kernel of the core to get in there and figure out what the fuck's going on. Like, this is the human quandary. This is the human Zen koan that every philosopher's been trying to crack forever. No one's been able to figure it out, because we all know that if you do have an affliction of that capacity, you have to become a great. You have literally no other option, or you're gonna burn away, or you're gonna burn out and be a figment of somebody else's imagination.
yeah. The main thing would be, because you've spoken about this a lot, even from last year on the SoundCloud. One thing you mentioned a lot, and I think it might help others as well, is more so the self-image. Because you talk about addicts and whatnot. I grew up next to a crackhead, which was my neighbor. So obviously the self-image doesn't align with one of being, a millionaire and whatnot. So obviously that's something I want you to sort of touch upon as well, real quick.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. So it's like, look, here's the deal. Crackheads, addicts in general, they have a mission, is the bottom line, right? They have a mission. The mission is something that's sort of trite. It's sort of trivial in its own way. It's frowned upon, whatever. But they do have a mission, which is more than most people can say, right? The addict has to score every day. The addict has to score every day. So he has a mission, which is why I've always told you an addict has zero problems with women or even maintaining a household. There are a lot of functional addicts roaming around that have very loyal women standing by their side. And I think I figured this out the other day. It's because the impulsiveness of the addict resembles high testosterone behavior. And I think women are drawn to that. You're going to be very hard pressed to find me a functional alcoholic, a raging alcoholic man who has a wife that leaves him. It's almost never happened. It's almost never happened. But here's the deal. Here's what I'm telling you. The functional alcoholic only became a functional alcoholic because he figured out how to weave that into the overstructure, the superstructure of his personality. That's what I'm telling you. He didn't use self-denial. He fucking wove it in and let his other strengths eclipse it and overshadow it. You know what I mean? Like, you guys don't get it. When I say there's maniacs running this country, it's a fact. They all are degens. They all are fucking balling on coke. I know for a fact Elon Musk is probably on like 12 different fucking drugs daily. But they're outrunning it and they're not denying it. They're incorporating it. It's complementary. And it takes a lot of years of practice of accepting who you really are in order to figure out how to weave that in. And then you become functional. You know what I mean? There's kingpins all over the world doing majestic things, moving huge numbers, doing crazy business, fashioning together deals like MacGyver daily that would fucking make your head spin and your eyes fall out of your head. But you know what they all have in common? They see the drug or whatever driving them, whatever degeneracy they want to indulge in, they see it as the reward. So they work during the day and they accomplish things and they solve problems all day long. And then at night, when the sun goes down and those crisp crepuscular tones step in, that's when they fucking play the harp, and that's when they start fucking indulging in sort of these habits and shit. It becomes a reward system. Does that make sense? That's a whole different interpretation, because everybody at the top is a functional degenerate. That's just what happens, because there was no self-denial there. They didn't blow the whistle on the game and pause and step into therapy and say, you know what, I want to blunt my edge. I have to tap out. I'm going to surrender. I wave the white flag. I can't do this anymore. I need a fucking mental health day. I'm going to go to rehab for 4 months. That bonfire is just going to become stronger after the 4 months. That's why the recidivism rate in all rehabs is like 99%. I believe 99% of people who go to rehab end up falling back into the same pattern. And the next run is stronger than it ever was before, because they're doing it the incorrect way. The energy has to be sublimated. I'm going to move on. That was a good question. Yo, bronchitis. Yo. This is an insane fucking streak of calling people up and having their microphones not work. Not even humanly possible. Yo, John. John, you're up, buddy.
Yo, my bad. I was on mute. What's up, bro?
Yo, gun it.
Yeah. So, I was wondering what big trends you see in the next 5 years. I just hopped in this space, had a quick question, and just firing it out there.
What new trends?
Yeah.
Man, I think we're just fucking riding the decline until the wheels come off at this point, man. I think everybody in America is depressed. I actually do not know a single person in America who's not depressed. And all of that depression is being sublimated, like I said. I had a good tweet the other day about how most ambitious men who are killing it are borderline depressed or suicidal at all times. I think that's a fact. I think we are headed towards an absolute final conclusive gender reversal where men are lazy and just chilling like lions, and women are going to be fucking bringing in bread and money and shit like that. I think corporate land is completely fucking dead for men. Job market is dead for men. It's basically a woman dominated space now. And I think that's where it's headed. I think we're going back to primal times. Men are lazy and just chilling, and women are out hunting. Just like in the fucking Lion Kingdom. I think that's the biggest fucking trend that we're going to see.
I hear ya. And, yeah, I kind of lived. So what I do is I'm a professional golf caddy. So I'm back and forth between Ohio and Florida. Florida in the wintertime, super nice course down there, very private. Networking, just around a bunch of good people. And, you know, I get sun on the skin every day, and I do enjoy what I do, but it's like, you know, there's more ambitious moves out there. And,
Do you have another question?
no, go on.
All right. I'm going to stop you right there. Thank
All
you.
right.
Yo, Fred.
Yo, Bruce, how you doing?
Good, man. Talk to us.
So you talk a lot about the chaotic types, the anti-humans that break all the rules, but that's what gives them their edge. In your experience, at what point does the breaking the rules and the degeneracy start to not really like give you opportunities and bring you forward and all that kind of stuff and actually get in the way of things? Does it have to end at one point?
Yeah, I mean, of course it does. Like it's like that earlier fella said. All his only mission was to fucking make money. Making money for the sake of making money is not going to work for most people. It's not going to solve your problems. It's really not. I mean, everybody has this sort of golden rule that they think if they make a ton of money, they can just rest on their laurels and coast the rest of their life. That's not how the game works whatsoever. You're going to get eaten alive. You're going to get eaten alive by predatory women who know the game better than you do. On average, I would say in this current society, women are a lot smarter than men. They're a lot sharper. They're a lot more calibrated and fine-tuned to what's really going on. And they are devouring men, especially rich men. Rich men are getting absolutely pounced and preyed upon. And that's a common theme because everybody seems to think that money is just going to solve your problems. And as we've outlined 100 fucking times, that's not the case. So to go back to the original point, you 100% do have to build vehicles outside of the degeneracy. The degeneracy, I don't even like that word because every male has a dark nature that they 100% need to bring forth if they want to have a complete life. You have to travel the left hand path before you can travel the right hand path. And it's sort of like I've said before, I consider myself a Buddhist. I consider my philosophy very Buddhist, but the catch is I arrived at Buddhism by traveling the complete opposite direction. You know what I mean? And most paths that are worth journeying are like that. You know what I mean? It's like the Mobius strip where there's a twist in the middle. Wherever you start, you sort of end up on the back road of where you began. And so in order to sort of find that sort of salvation and emancipation, and I want to even say clemency, you have to travel the opposite path of where you want to go in order to get there. That seems to be a universal rule of thumb. You know what I mean? If you want to get to Christ, you fucking take the left-hand road to get there. It's just a ubiquitous thing, and I don't think running towards the light in the beginning is the best way to go. I think you have to run towards the dark so you can better understand yourself and understand the impulses that you have. The more you squash those things, the further you will ever find any sense of contentment or fulfillment as a man. You have to travel the left hand first and understand the dark impulses, and then once you go to the light, you're an indomitable force. No one can fuck with you because when you journey through yourself, you've journeyed through all of humanity. You understand
Right.
everybody's behavior. You understand there's no human behavior that is weird or bizarre to you anymore. You understand everything when you journey through yourself.
Right. I ask because a part of me feels like, as you said, moving to the left before you move to the right, that if, like, I don't know why, but the more I succeed in life, the more I feel like if I let go of the left now, it feels like defeat in some way.
It is defeat in some way because, like I said, you don't really understand. It's like taking a block out of the game Jenga. You don't understand when you make an incision in your personality and start deleting things. You don't really understand where that fault line is. Nobody does. Nobody really understands where the foundation of the structure is built upon. So if you start removing blocks, you could just topple the whole thing. And then you're back at zero again. You're back at square one. So I've always said, embrace the flaws that you have and learn how to incorporate them because the people who are winning are all embracing their flaws. They're just throwing it on their shoulder and continuing to climb up the mountain. They're not pausing and trying to figure out, okay, I got to stop doing this, stop doing this. I need more structure, more discipline. I need a quiet space to work. Dude, 2023 is the year of dopamine, man. Like, if you can't navigate the world with your dopamine receptors fried, you're totally fucked. You're hung out to dry. You're a sitting duck. Like, you got to be able to work with music blaring, the TV on, kids screaming, fucking all sorts of chaos going on in the background. If you can't fucking get work done outside of a quiet, perfectly centered environment, I think you're screwed because the culture is headed more towards sirens blaring, cacophonous noises. Like, you're never going to really incubate yourself against that. Because the attack point in social media and culture is we're in the era of the blurb, right? Like, we're in the era of the soundbite, the blurb. Everything's a flash in a pan. Everything's happening so quickly, so fast that you have to learn how to maneuver amidst the chaos. That's why I told you geniuses lord over chaos. You know what I mean? If you need a bunch of systems to work and you need a bunch of systems to run your daily life, you're not a natural. You're not a natural. And that's a very, very painful thing for a lot of people to admit is that they're not a natural. They just can't hack it without those systems. And that's fine. I mean, they're doing whatever they can, but a natural don't need systems. You know what I mean? You'll just take chaos all fucking day and you'll improvise and you'll figure it out. And I think that's my central message. I think guys need to put themselves in spots where they just have to figure it the fuck out and learn how to fucking drive up those creative juices with their back against the wall, because, you know, corners are opportunities for creativity. You're never going to get creative unless you have to. You know what I mean? You're never going to MacGyver shit. You're never going to be a Robinson Crusoe unless you have to be. And I think that's my central thesis, and I will die on that hill.
Yeah, perhaps I romanticize it too much. Anyway, thanks,